Hi guys, it's me, HD, and welcome to another Grand Prix in 2025. It is race 11 of the 2025 season. We're back in Europe, and we are back at the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix weekend. Hope you guys are well. Of course, we've had a 2-week break since the last race in Canada, which was a bit dramatic in certain areas. And obviously, we had a new winner in 2025 in terms of a different team, other than McLaren and Red Bull. And yeah, it was a decent Grand Prix weekend in Canada. But we come here to Austria hoping for as competitive a weekend as what we got a couple of weeks ago in Montreal. And normally we do get competitive, good racing here at the Red Bull Ring. But some races can be a lot more exciting than others. So we'll see what this Grand Prix weekend turns out to be. But it's looking decently close in certain areas. Not as close as I was hoping, personally, but let's hope for a good Grand Prix weekend. Qualifying today should be exciting. Of course, it is a very short lap, and the gaps between the cars will be quite a bit closer in certain areas than they are normally. So, yeah, it will be an exciting qualifying session, no doubt about that. We do have a couple surprises in the field so far from the running we've had as well. So, yeah, it should be an interesting qualifying today. And then we'll see what kind of grid we get for tomorrow's Grand Prix. But, yeah, it should be a good weekend. We never tend to get, proper boring races here at the Red Bull Ring. But whether, or how exciting this weekend is depends really on what we get here in qualifying. But yeah, qualifying getting underway, as you can see on your screen, in just under an hour and a half from now. Hope you guys are well. As I said earlier, I hope you've had a good last couple of weeks. I've had a decent last couple of weeks getting some work done, enjoying the weather. Went for a trip last weekend, an all-weekend trip, which was, I didn't manage to get out too much because I wasn't feeling physically that great, but change of scenery was still great. After the year of uni that I've had, that I'd just finished 3 or 4 weeks ago. Yeah, I've had a decent 2 weeks, and I hope you guys have as well. And no matter what time zone you're in, what part of the world you're from, hope you're all having as best a time as possible given whatever circumstances you're going through. And I hope you can join me today in either enjoying the session by watching along with me, or if you can't watch the session and you're busy doing something but you can listen along, then don't worry, I'll keep you absolutely up to date with all the goings on of qualifying here in Austria. But yeah, obviously the usual qualifying watch along today, and we'll be going through the usual build-up, looking at what happened yesterday in FP2, looking at the running so far, the sector time data to see why certain teams are on the pace and certain teams are a bit off the pace. We'll go through what the pecking order probably is for qualifying. Obviously, I'll go through my own predictions. We'll go later in the build-up a bit more into the teams in terms of how or what they should be aiming for in this qualifying session. And then in an hour and 25 minutes, we will get officially underway at the Red Bull Ring for qualifying. Of course, there's a poll running in the chat where I've asked you guys who will take pole here in Austria. Your options are Max Verstappen, Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Charles Leclerc for who will take pole. If you think it will be someone different than those four, though, make sure to post it as a comment in the chat, and I will get to that in the build-up. Obviously, I'll be reading your guys' comments for quite a bit in this build-up as well. Because I know I haven't been around for a couple of weeks, I did upload a video to the channel on Tuesday, which was, 4 days ago. And it was a video going through Ferrari's issues in 2025. If you haven't checked it out, there is a link below in the description. It's only, I think, 15 minutes long, so if you want to watch that before we get into qualifying, then go ahead. But yeah, that video I uploaded on Tuesday. Link below in the description. Make sure to check it out, whether you check it out now or after the stream or whatever. But yeah, make sure to go and check out why exactly Ferrari have been off the pace in 2025. But yeah, let's just get into the results of practice 2 yesterday. And McLaren, I always expected them to be quick. They do have the fastest car on the grid. But I did not expect them to be this quick compared to the rest of the field. Given the characteristics of this circuit, yeah, they were and have been this weekend easily the fastest team. In practice 2, they were a third of a second clear of the next non-McLaren, or the first non-McLaren car being the Red Bull Max Verstappen, who is looking quick, but I don't think Red Bull have enough pace really to get pole position unless the two McLaren drivers mess up in qualifying. But yeah, McLaren look very, very good with both Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. So yeah, McLaren, again, no surprise they're looking quick. I thought they would be. I thought they would be definitely in the fight for pole position, but they're looking quite a bit stronger than I expected so far this weekend. Max Verstappen third in the Red Bull. As I said, Red Bull looking good, but I'm not sure they are pole position level this weekend. I think they might just be a tenth or so shy of that ultimately when we get to Q3. But Verstappen, no surprise, he's right up there. Obviously, he's had so much success here, and this is probably one of the strongest tracks for him in the world. So, yeah, no surprise, he's right up there. But then, Lance Stroll, fourth for Aston Martin. And Aston Martin genuinely have been quick this weekend. And they are really the team to look out for this weekend, because if there's going to be a real surprise in the order, it's going to be Aston Martin. They have been very strong this weekend. We'll get into why that is in a moment. It's not really, they're not doing anything incredible or magical to be as quick as they are. It's quite simple what they're doing. They did it to a degree in Montreal, and it worked. But yeah, Aston Martin look very, very quick. This is probably the quickest they've looked compared to the other front-running teams in quite a while, probably a year, maybe a year and a half or so. Aston Martin, good to see them looking a lot stronger compared to the early part of this season. And then Charles Leclerc and George Russell, Ferrari and Mercedes, yeah, quite a bit off the pace of McLaren and even Red Bull. Now, Ferrari and Mercedes will be closer to pole than they were, or to first, than they were in practice 2. They're not going to be over half a second away, but Ferrari and Mercedes are not going to be in the fight for pole position. They just don't have enough pace. If they did, then I would absolutely trust Leclerc or Russell to be able to take pole position, because they're two absolutely brilliant drivers, especially around a track like this. But those two cars are just not anywhere near the McLaren around this track. So yeah, Ferrari and Mercedes nowhere near, I'm afraid, fighting for pole. Yuki Tsunoda, good to see him up in P7. With Red Bull, by the way, they do have a new upgrade on Max's car. I think a new floor upgrade, I think it is. Yuki, though, does not have that upgrade. I think he will have it for Silverstone, but apparently there is more upgrades planned for the British Grand Prix, which, of course, is next weekend. There is going to be quite a bit of upgrades for that Grand Prix, as there usually is. Obviously, McLaren, it's their home race, so there'll be some upgrades for them, even though McLaren have brought some here. Which is definitely, by the looks of it, pushed them forward. Williams, of course, you'd expect something. Mercedes, given that Mercedes are literally down the road, their team base from Silverstone. And obviously Aston Martin literally are based at Silverstone. So yeah, next week will be very interesting when it comes to car upgrades. Ferrari, by the way, have brought some upgrades here, but so far doesn't look like it has improved the pace of their car. The only upgrades that look to have worked so far for any team looks to be McLaren, who again are a bit further clear of the field than we expected, and I think that can only really be because of an upgrade package. So yeah, McLaren looking very good. Gabriel Bortoleto has been very good this weekend, 8th in the Sauber. I would be very surprised, though, if he was in the top 10 in qualifying. But do keep an eye on him, because he might be, if we get, say, a Tsunoda in the Red Bull and maybe someone else, a Mercedes or a Ferrari getting eliminated in Q2, maybe Bortoleto can sneak in and take a top 10 finishing position here today. So keep an eye on him. Fernando Alonso 9th. Alonso, I'm sure, will be a lot quicker in qualifying, because even though, yes, this has never been a super strong circuit for him, I still think he'll be ahead of Lance Stroll in qualifying. And then Lewis Hamilton rounding out the top 10. Hamilton definitely a bit too far off the pace compared to Leclerc. Really should be in between Tsunoda and Bortoleto in terms of position there, but I mean, Ferrari not quick, so doesn't really matter that much, to be honest. Ferrari, yeah, just not in great shape. Nowhere near as good this weekend as I was really hoping and even expecting to a degree. And then the rest of the field, you've got Kimi Antonelli in 11th. Antonelli's not had a great weekend so far. And then you've got the two Racing Bulls, Lawson and Hadjar, who are very close on pace to being in the top 10, but they're just a slight bit away. We'll get into why that is in the when we look at the sector time data, because it's clear to see why Racing Bulls are just a bit too far away. And then you've got Gasly 14th in the Alpine, and then Ocon 15th. And then the two Williamses, 16th and 17th. I do think there's more pace to that Williams. I think they could probably make Q2 with both cars, but I would be pretty surprised if they made the top 10. They don't look anywhere near top 10 material, you have to say. So yeah, surprisingly poor from Williams so far. Then Oliver Behrman, Nico Hulkenberg, very surprising. He's been not on the really on great pace this weekend. And then Franco Colapinto last. You'd hope he'll be a lot better than that in qualifying and be doing what he did in Montreal, which was out qualifying Gasly and having a good qualifying. But yeah, we'll see with Colapinto. But let's go into the sector time data just to understand why the pecking order has been the way it is this weekend. Now, the first sector, I'm not going to say it's not important at all. It obviously has some importance, but compared to the middle and final sector in qualifying, it doesn't really matter that much. As long as you're not too far off the pace and you don't make a mistake, then it's fine, whatever your first sector speed is. And the first sector is all about basically straight line speed. McLaren clearly have optimized their car very well in that area, because they are the quickest team in the first sector by 1/10 of a second over Red Bull. I think that will be closer, though, in qualifying. I think McLaren and Red Bull will probably be on the same pace in Sector 1. And then Aston Martin, third quickest. Now, you might remember in the last Grand Prix Montreal, Aston Martin had one of the best top speeds. And obviously, Montreal is a power circuit. So what Aston Martin have done this weekend is, like McLaren, they have optimized their car very well to be quick down the straights and still have a decent amount of speed in the corners. So Aston Martin, have took a bit of wing off, but not too much to the point where they're losing way too much in the corners. They've got the setup just right, and that's what is helping them be so quick this weekend. Mercedes and Ferrari definitely could improve on that first sector time, especially Ferrari, nearly 3/10 off McLaren in just the first sector. That is horrendous, quite frankly. They should be at least a couple tenths of a second closer than that. And then you got Sauber, Racing Bulls, Williams, Alpine, and Haas. Williams definitely should be a tad better through this part of the lap. But it's really the middle sector and the final sector that matter more, because you have a lot more important corners. The middle sector is the longest sector here at the Red Bull Ring. McLaren, again, the quickest team, no surprise. Aston Martin, second quickest in the middle sector and a 10th quicker than Red Bull. Again, though, I think that's because of how well optimized the car is setup-wise in terms of not being too draggy and having just the right amount of downforce and, not too much wing on the car so that they're not too slow down the straights. I think that is pretty much the reason why Aston Martin in the first two sectors are so quick. Red Bull will be a bit closer than they were in practice too in this part of the lap, but still will be lagging behind McLaren. And then Racing Bulls, fourth quickest team. And as you'll see in the final sector, Racing Bulls were very quick there. So with Racing Bulls, it's just, I think, a lack of straight line speed compared to, say, an Aston Martin, which is really the reason why they're not in the top 10. In the corners, I think easily that car is top 10 material. But, yeah, they just don't have the car as well optimized down the straights as Aston Martin do. So, in the race, maybe that'll pay Racing Bulls back, and they'll be able to score points through having a car that's, easier on its tires, obviously being, better through the corners. We'll have to see, but yeah, Racing Bulls have definitely got a good car. It's just a slight lack of straight line speed, I believe, with them. Sauber, good middle sector. Ferrari, though, and Mercedes definitely can improve quite a bit on this middle sector. And they got Haas, Williams again, pretty slow, and then Alpine, the slowest. And then the final sector is really all about downforce, because you really have to throw your car about in this final sector, and your car has to be compliant and give you really good amounts of grip, especially on the rear end, if you're going to really excel in this final part of the lap. And no surprise, McLaren are the best in that area because they have the best car on the grid. Red Bull, not really surprised they're quick in the final sector. They'll be closer to McLaren than this, I'm sure. But yeah, Red Bull still lacking that extra few hundredths to really put themselves right on the pace of McLaren. Ferrari looking better in the final sector, which is good to see compared to the rest of the lap where they look pretty poor. Again, Racing Bulls, very good, as we can see through the corners. Mercedes definitely could improve on that Sector 3 time by at least a tenth and a half, I think. And then you got Aston Martin, and you can see, I think, because they've took a slight bit of wing off, not helping them that much in the final sector, but they're still doing a good enough final sector pace that they can be where they are. And then you got Alpine, Sauber, Haas, and Williams, the slowest of all the teams in the final part of the lap. And Williams, really, if you look through all of the sectors like we just have, they're not quick in any part of the lap. So there's nothing you can point to if you're a Williams fan and say, well, straight line speed's looking good, or well, we're quick through the corners, but maybe just have a bit too much wing on, say like a Racing Bulls. Williams are slow in all parts of the lap, so I don't know exactly what is going wrong there. I expected Williams to be pretty fast around this racetrack, but yeah, they've been pretty slow this weekend, which is a real shame. But if we go back to the practice results, in terms of the pecking order, McLaren are clearly the quickest. I think Red Bull, Ferrari, and Mercedes, though, will be closer to them in qualifying than they were in practice. But ultimately, McLaren still have the fastest car. There is no doubt about that. Second, you'd have to say Red Bull. Third, I would say Ferrari, only because Ferrari have a stronger engine than Mercedes do. if they had the same engine, I think Mercedes would probably be ahead by a tenth or so. But yeah, Ferrari, because of that stronger power unit, I think Ferrari are, slightly ahead in qualifying trim compared to Mercedes. Fifth, quite clearly, Aston Martin. And Aston Martin, not far behind at all. I don't think they'll be compared to Ferrari and Mercedes because of how quick they are in the first couple sectors. But ultimately, I think Aston Martin are lagging just a bit too far behind to be ahead of those teams, or at least ahead of both cars for those teams. So yeah, Aston Martin fifth, sixth. You'd have to say probably Sauber, given how quick Bortoletto has looked, and then seventh, Racing Bulls. Eighth, I would say, I'd probably say Haas, honestly, because if you go and look at that bottom few cars, Esteban Ocon has had a great season in the races, but a lot of the time, Oliver Behrman, his teammate, does out-qualify him. So if Behrman can be ahead of Ocon, I think Behrman could also be ahead of the two Alpines and the two Williamses. So Haas, I would say 8th quickest. 9th quickest, I would say Alpine. And the slowest team, honestly, I'd have to say at the minute looks to be Williams, which is really surprising to say because, 6 weeks or so ago, they looked like they were breaking into that fight for even, podiums almost. And now they're absolutely nowhere. They did say a few weeks ago that they wouldn't be upgrading this car anymore. So maybe that is ultimately why they've fallen off so quickly. I don't know, but what is clear to see is that they have fallen off very, very quickly. I think the next Grand Prix at Silverstone, if they're this far off the pace again, then that will be a better illustration of lack of upgrades than this track, because Silverstone is a lot more of a higher downforce track than this one, and a lack of development shows itself a lot more at Silverstone than it does here. So, yeah, we'll see how they do at their home Grand Prix next week. But here they are absolutely miles off the pace. And as I said, I'd be surprised if they got anywhere near the top 10. Ultimately, we'll see where they end up. But that's what I think the pecking order is for qualifying. And based on that, let me get into my predictions, my final prediction for qualifying. And on pole position, I think it will be Oscar Piastri for McLaren. Second, just about, I think will be Max Verstappen. And the reason that is one, I don't trust Lando Norris to do a good job in Q3. As we've seen recently, Lando has been terrible in the final part of qualifying in terms of getting it right. And because Verstappen is so great here, I think he will produce greatness in Q3, and I think he will end up at least on the front row of the grid. Pole position, though, again, I think it's just a bit too far away for Max to get. And then, Norris third. Leclerc, I think, will just about end up fourth, with Russell fifth. And then just behind, Fernando Alonso, I'm going in sixth. Yuki Tsunoda in seventh. Antonelli eighth. Hamilton ninth. And Lance Stroll in P10. That's my prediction for qualifying. Let me know your prediction, whether it's in the poll or in the live chat, guys, and I'll get to your predictions in the next hour or so. But yeah, these are my predictions. We'll see if it does come true or not. But let me come back to this screen and get the timer back on the screen, as we have got, there you go, hour and 5 minutes to go until qualifying begins. Again, want to say quickly, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Again, I uploaded a Ferrari video a few days ago, so if you haven't seen that, make sure to go check it out, link in the description. And also, make sure to smash the like button on the stream, it does help the channel grow, helps with the algorithm. We're on 14 likes at the minute, so try and get up to 20 or 25 likes if we can. In the next, say, I don't know, half an hour, something like that. That'd be great if we could do that. But yeah, I'd say for the next half an hour, or just over half an hour, we're going to go through your comments in the chat, and then I will do a quick roundup of the teams again and go through what the teams could get in this session, what they should be aiming for, and then we'll go through some final comments then before qualifying, and then in just about an hour's time, we'll be into the session. As the Formula 2 race, by the way, has had a long delay because of a big crash at turn 3, but thankfully the F2 race is back underway. But they've got another, 24 laps, I think, or 25 laps. So I hope that doesn't delay the start of qualifying. It shouldn't, because they should be finished probably, 15, 20 minutes before qualifying begins. So it should be okay. But if there is any delays to the start of qualifying, of course, I will let you guys know. But yeah, let's come to your comments in the chat. Good to see you all, by the way. Good to see Astro, who I don't think was around for the last Grand Prix, which I'm not surprised, because obviously the last Grand Prix, really bad time for you guys in Australia. But good to see you for this one. Looney Classic says, would be surprised if McLaren doesn't get a 1-2 tomorrow. And also says, last week I told each other that Mercedes are not going to be quick enough to make Russell a title contender. Even Max is not going to have the car to beat Oscar throughout the season. Well, still, we'll see. Because, look at the last year's Grand Prix here. Russell didn't have the car to win this Grand Prix, and he did. Not saying he will, but, we don't know still how things are going to play out. I mean, I do agree that it is very unlikely that George Russell is going to win the championship or even be in the championship fight. I agree with that, but he's still close enough that if Mercedes can bring an upgrade package before the summer break that gives them, quite a bit extra bit of lap time, he's still close enough that he can be in the fight. And obviously, it's pretty much their home race next week. So yeah, let's see. But yeah, I don't think, I'm not saying it's likely that they're going to be in the championship fight, but I think Russell is still close enough for the moment that he still has a very small chance of at least being in the fight. But again, it all depends on if the Mercedes car improves or not. And really, this next couple races will decide that, because again, they should bring some upgrades for the next Grand Prix at Silverstone, and it gives them an extra 3-4 tenths of a second, or even half a second, then Mercedes are right in play. But yeah, the championship fight still for me is Oscar Piastri versus Max Verstappen. I know Lando Norris is Oscar's nearest contender, but Lando Norris is not winning the championship this year. Absolutely no chance that is happening. So yeah, mainly, it is Piastri versus Verstappen. And in regards to the championship fight, from Oscar Piastri's point of view, we've only got 4 races to go now until the summer break. with Oscar, I think Oscar only needs really to win 2 of these next 4 races. He doesn't need to win all of them, really, to be in a good position for the championship. For example, if he was to win this weekend and next weekend at Silverstone, and his nearest contender, Lando Norris, finished in second, then Piastri would be 36 points clear, at least, in the championship of his nearest rival, if Piastri, of course, wins these next 2 races. So, that'd put him in a very good position as long as he finishes then on the podium, say at Spa and Hungary. But, for Oscar, that's, I think, the minimum of what he needs to do in these next 4 races, these last 4 races before the summer break. For Max Verstappen, though, Max, absolutely, I still maintain he has to win the Grand Prix this weekend in Austria. Not saying he will, but if he can, he absolutely must. Because, Max is what? Is it 43 points behind? And he can't really afford to let Piastri outscore him by quite a significant amount anymore. He's got to start eating into Piastri's lead. And if Max was to win this weekend and Piastri finished in second, the gap would go down to 36 points. And at that point, 36 points with still half a season to go, you would still fancy that Max, still has a pretty good chance of the championship, especially if Red Bull can improve their car. So, yeah. This Grand Prix definitely is quite an important one for both the 2 main championship contenders, Verstappen and Piastri. Definitely more important for Max, though. Because even if Oscar doesn't win this race, if Max doesn't either, then that is, that plays into Oscar's hands still. But we'll see. Because, you never know what can happen here at the Red Bull Ring. But Verstappen, like I said, needs to win this weekend. And then Silverstone, I've looked at the weather forecast. It looks like it's going to be a dry and quite nice weekend at Silverstone compared to last year, which is a bit of a shame because last year's race was absolutely amazing. So I'd be surprised if Max won next weekend at Silverstone, because I think McLaren, in dry conditions at that track, I think McLaren will be relatively comfortable at the minimum. I think McLaren will be clear favourites at Silverstone. Spa, obviously, you can't count out Max Verstappen at Spa. He is, just incredible around that circuit. And then the Hungaroring, you'd expect, if it's dry, McLaren to dominate that weekend. So really, Max needs to, in these final 4 races before the summer break, Max needs to win this weekend and win at Spa. And then finish, second or third at the British Grand Prix and in Hungary. And then going into the summer break, he'll be, maybe, if he was to do that, it'd be 30 to 35 points behind, which again, not a bad deficit to have, with quite a few races to go and still possible car improvements to come. So we will see ultimately how things play out. But if Oscar Piastri does win this weekend, that would be a crucial win for his championship. Not just getting that extra win, but taking away the win that Verstappen most needs. Anyway, let's go on to some other comments. Astro says, hoping Yuki can do well and get points this weekend. Think he'll find a new team for next year. Thoughts on where he might be able to go, Chazza? I haven't really thought about it, but one thing I can announce is that I will be doing a driver lineup prediction video soon. Should be coming out in the summer break, in August, obviously. So, yeah, I'll make my predictions in that video. I'm probably going to record the audio for that video on Monday. So, yeah. And then probably get it edited in the next couple weeks. And then, yeah, get it ready for upload in the summer break. In regards to the summer break, by the way, I just want to quickly announce that, yeah, I have summer break content planned. The plan is for me to upload at least 3 recorded videos, maybe 4 recorded videos. In terms of that 4th recorded video, we'll have to see. It is quite a long one, so it might not come out in the summer break. It will definitely come out before the end of the year, this this video I'm talking about. But yeah, there will be at least 3 recorded videos in the summer break. One of them will be a driver lineup prediction video, and then the other 2 is going to be one of them will be a driver rankings video, where I'll be ranking the drivers based on so far this season, up until obviously the summer break. And then the 3rd video will be me talking about the state of the championship battle and making whatever claim at that point, whether I think Piastri's too far clear or whether Verstappen has, closed the gap. We will talk about that. So yeah, those are going to be 3 of the videos coming out in the summer break. And then this 4th one, I hope will come out in the summer break. I'd like it to, so I could get it off my my plate, because there's other bits of content that I want to do. But yeah, we'll see ultimately with that 4th one. But yeah, there will be at least 3 recorded videos. Of course, the summer break is quite long. It's basically a month long between the Hungarian and the Dutch Grand Prix. So yeah, we'll see exactly when I upload at certain points. But yeah, there should be at least 3 recorded videos. I will have an exact plan closer to the summer break. So if you wait till, say, the Belgian Grand Prix, which is in about, is it a month from now? I think the Belgian Grand Prix. Yeah, it is. The Belgian Grand Prix is in a month from now. So once we get to that Grand Prix, I should know exactly what content is coming out in the summer break. And not only exactly what content is coming out in the summer break, but I should know also when certain videos will be coming out. So yeah, I'll update you guys on that again when we get to the Belgian Grand Prix in a month from now, which is only like a week or so before the summer break begins. But yeah, just wanted to announce that. That's the plan. And yeah, I'll let you guys know more info on that once I've done quite a bit of work on those videos. What I'm trying to do in this next month really is get ahead and get those videos as done as I can, so that personally for me, I want to try and have August off myself as a holiday. I mean, for a couple reasons. One, because I've been doing a lot of content for the channel, obviously since say middle of February for this Formula 1 season, but also I've just finished the 3rd year of uni, and I would like to have, say, a month or so off from just doing any sort of work. So yeah, that's what I'm trying to do, and that's what the next month or so is going to be about for me. Is just getting ahead, getting those videos for the summer break ready, so that they can upload and you guys can enjoy them, and I can enjoy having a rest until Formula One comes back at the very end of August. So yeah, that's the plan. And also because I will be working on that content for the summer break, there is a 3-week break between the British and Belgian Grand Prix. During that break, I'm going to be honest, I'm probably not going to upload any videos during that 3-week break because I will be working on those videos for the summer break, which is, for me, more important to get videos ready for that period rather than the 2-week break or 3-week break, whatever it is, between the British and Belgian Grand Prix. So yeah, hopefully that's cleared up, what the content plan is for the summer break and going forward for these next few weeks. In terms of this next week or so, of course, if you don't know, I am doing a race watch along tomorrow. I'll be live as usual 2 hours before lights out at 12 p.m. UK time. On Monday, there will be a podcast reviewing this Grand Prix. And then next weekend, of course, is my home Grand Prix, the British Grand Prix. And I will be doing both a qualifying and race watch along for the British Grand Prix. And then, of course, a podcast the day after the British Grand Prix to review it. And Niblo, who I think is in the chat, if he is, hello to you, hope you're doing well, who of course is my co-commentator, I believe will be joining me tomorrow and next Sunday for the British Grand Prix. So yeah, he'll be along with us. So yeah, that's the plan for the next week, these next 2 races. But then again, between the British and Belgian Grand Prix, that 3 weeks, there will be no content on the channel. As, like I said, I'll be getting content ready for the summer break, which is more important, in terms of getting content ready for a period of time. So, yeah, that's the plan going forward. And like I said, when it comes to that summer break content, I'll have more info for you in about a month from now when we get to the Belgian Grand Prix in terms of more so what those videos will be about, and also when those videos will come out. Anyway, let's go on to more of your comments. Looney Classic says, we could all see now that Kimi is not the next Max. He will do well in the future, but I just don't see the next Max in him. I think we need to be a bit... I'm not sure if cautious is the word, but if you compare Antonelli to Verstappen when Verstappen came into Formula One, Verstappen's teammate in his first year was Carlos Sainz, who, in that first year, Carlos was... I thought it was decent, but he wasn't the Carlos Sainz of now, and obviously Carlos Sainz at his best is a tier below the absolute elite drivers. When Antonelli, for his first year, has arguably the second best driver on the grid as his teammate, which would, that if we were to compare that with Verstappen, that would be like if Verstappen in 2015 had Sebastian Vettel or Fernando Alonso as his teammate in his first year. So I think we need to temper our expectations with Antonelli, given that he is so young and he's 18. As well, remember with Max, Max wasn't always amazing every single Grand Prix. Look at when he went to Red Bull in that first year in 2016. There were quite a few race weekends where Daniel Ricciardo outqualified him. And Ricciardo, at the time, was one of the top 5 drivers on the grid, but Ricciardo wasn't, he wasn't a generational level driver. So, yeah, I think we should readjust our expectations regarding Antonelli. I think Antonelli has had a mostly good debut season. I wouldn't say it's been amazing or absolutely fantastic, but it's been a mostly good debut season. Of course, last Grand Prix in Canada, he got his first podium in Formula One. Great to see him getting that, and hopefully that will be a turning point for him now. Would be nice to see maybe if he could get a podium this weekend somehow. But yeah, I think we should readjust our expectations to a degree. Let me find some other comments here. Can see Crystal Racing, by the way. Looney Classic says Williams are probably focusing on next year's car. Yeah, they did say a few weeks ago that they're not going to be bringing really any more upgrades because they want to make sure they get next year's car right. Another reason I think they're doing that is because I think it's almost like I wouldn't say it's the worst kept secret in F1, but it's at least the worst kept secret currently in F1, is that Mercedes are doing well with the 2026 engines. They, any type of noise, no pun intended, that we've heard regarding who is doing well developing these new power units, it's been Mercedes that we've heard is doing well on that front. And obviously Williams will be Mercedes powered next year, and Williams might be a front running team next year if Mercedes do have a clear advantage in the power unit stakes over everybody else like they did in 2014. So it really could benefit them doing that. So I don't mind Williams doing that. As long as it doesn't cost them too much this year in terms of where they finish in the championship. As long as Williams finish in the top 6 in the championship, I think that's good enough. And then next year, we'll see what they can do. Astro gives his prediction, which is Piastri on pole over Russell, second, and then Antonelli, Max, Norris, Lewis, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Alonso, Bortoletto / Hulk equal times. Yeah, it would be quite the surprise if we got Sauber in the top 10, but Sauber, of course, have scored points in the last 2 races. They are pretty strong at the minute over a race distance, but qualifying they are still lacking ultimately what you need to be top 10 material. Astra says if Mercedes turn out to have the better car in the second half of the season, can make things interesting. Absolutely. I think Mercedes will win at least one more race this season, no doubt about it. There'll be a race where Mercedes, are right on it, just like they were in Montreal. In terms of winning multiple races, though, again, it's going to depend on a big car upgrade to push them forward. But I think Mercedes will still get plenty of podiums. I can see them finishing on the podium quite a lot for the rest of the season. But ultimately, when it comes to winning, McLaren are going to be doing a lot of that. You'd imagine Max Verstappen will do a few more, or have a few more wins. And at some point, you'd hope Ferrari will win a Grand Prix. I was really hoping this weekend Ferrari with their upgrade would be on the pace and would be fighting for the win, but they're nowhere near, unfortunately. And I don't see them fighting for the win next weekend. I thought this weekend was a pretty good chance for them, but they've already shown that there ain't no pace there. So for Ferrari, I'd say the next chance for them to win a race is probably the Belgian Grand Prix at Spa. Remember, Ferrari do have another upgrade coming at Silverstone, which I think is a new front suspension. So if that works, maybe then, finally, they can fight for and get a race win. But if they don't win this weekend, I think the Belgian Grand Prix in a month from now is the next opportunity, possibly, if they improve the pace of their car, where they could do something. Again, the next weekend at Silverstone, I think as long as it's dry, McLaren, I think, will be comfortable ahead of Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes. But yeah, we'll see. Looney Classics asks, how many upgrades can Merkel Red Bull bring before they give up and focus on next year's car? Russell's title chances will be buried in Silverstone. I think this upgrade, you'd imagine they'll be bringing an upgrade package at Silverstone. That will probably be the last proper upgrade from Mercedes, because there's no point wasting a load more development time on this year's car if this next upgrade does not push them massively forward. So yeah, I think Red Bull, I can see Red Bull developing their car up until the end of the season, because as you guys may have heard, Max Verstappen heavily rumored to be going to Mercedes again. Whether he will actually go to Mercedes next year, who knows? I still don't think he will. I think if he does go, I think it'll be 2027, not 2026. But I think really with Red Bull, their ability to win races and championships is basically all come down to keeping Max Verstappen at their team. And one thing that would help keep Max at their team is if they were to develop this year's car as much as possible up until the end of the season to help him win his 5th World Championship. If they do that and Max wins the championship, then that helps that relationship and maybe keeps Max at the team a bit longer. But yeah, I think Red Bull, I think they will keep developing as much as possible, really. Because I think Red Bull, and I think we all kind of know that Red Bull are not going to be as strong in this next era coming up. I'm not saying they're going to completely fall off a cliff pace-wise, but we know they're not going to be dominating like they were, or like they have been, never mind like they were. So yeah, I think that's what Red Bull will be doing. Ferrari, though, I did read an article by The Race that came out a few days ago, and it was talking about the upgrades that they brought this weekend and the upgrades that they're bringing for the British Grand Prix, and how it may not solve the issue at Ferrari. But they did say in that article that these upgrades are Ferrari's last upgrades for the season. So if after the British Grand Prix, these upgrades have not pushed Ferrari majorly forward, then that's it, basically. And Ferrari will struggle to win a race if they don't gain, say, at least a third of a second from these upgrades. So, yeah, we'll see. Again, the British Grand Prix is a better... that track, Silverstone, is a better track for showing, the improvement from an upgrade. But you would think that you would have seen something from Ferrari this weekend with the upgrade they brought that would give you encouragement, but we haven't seen anything so far. But maybe they're holding it back until qualifying. We will ultimately find out in 35 minutes from now. But yeah, I'll read out a couple more comments, I reckon, and then we'll get on to posting the link of the stream out again, and then I'm going to do a quick roundup of the teams. And a reminder I will do of my prediction for qualifying. Looney Classic saying regarding the championship battle that Oscar needs to lead Max by 60 points going into the break. And if he wins the first race after the break, then in my opinion, he is driver's champion. I mean, if he can lead Max by 60 points going into the break, that would be really great, but I don't think he will. And I don't think he needs to either, for him to be able to have a comfortable enough ride to the championship, let's say. Again, as long as Piastri wins 2 of these final 4 races before the summer break, I think that is at minimum good enough from Oscar. Especially if he wins this weekend and at Silverstone, that would be really good for him. If he can go into the into the summer break and in the championship be 40 to 50 points clear of Verstappen, I think that would be good. And then after the summer break, we'll see obviously whether Red Bull continue to improve, what McLaren do. I mean, McLaren have wrapped up the Constructors' Championship. Nobody's going to beat them on that end. It all comes down to the driver's side as to can they do the clean sweep championship-wise this season. And yeah, we'll see. But these final 4 races, again, before the summer break, they are absolutely crucial for the championship. So, and well, more crucial for Max Verstappen, but also crucial for Piastri to at least keep up the form that he has shown so far this season. KH saying, Chaz, recharge yourself, health is more important. Yeah. Agree, Chaz, enjoy your summer. Yeah, I think, again, that's what I'm hoping to do. Get those videos for the summer break ready into the next month, and then I can have August off. Because I think, again, not only do I need it, I think I deserve it. Not to quote Cristiano Ronaldo, who once famously said that, but yeah, given the last year I've had with uni, which has been really stressful, and I also committed a lot of work towards it, and then obviously if you look at the channel, as oh my god, in F2 there's been an absolute pile up on the exit of turn 3. Formula 2, once again, proving to be just a online F1 game lobby. No serious racing whatsoever. What do you call it? Yeah, and, not just that with uni, but with the channel, I've been as busy. This is the busiest I've actually been with the channel in terms of uploading, probably since 2022. If not even earlier than that. I've been back, thankfully, to uploading regular recorded videos, which is something I've been working towards for years, ever since I had that mental health break a few years ago. And I finally got back into the rhythm of being able to do that, which is great. So yeah, like I said, if I can get those videos ready in the next month, then I will absolutely do that in August and hopefully be really refreshed, recharged, and ready to go for what hopefully should be a really exciting second half of the Formula 1 season. And I'm hoping to be starting my Masters in late September. So it'd be good to have a little break in August also for that. Anyway, before I read any more of your comments, let me just quickly post a link of the stream out one final time. Let me just do it now. Come join us here to Watchalong. Qualifying at the Red Bull Ring. And there you go. So hopefully we'll get a few more people joining us. Anyway, I will come back to your comments, by the way. Make sure to keep them coming. There's quite a few comments that I still want to read. By the way, hello to Brabham and to all the regulars and to all the new people and everyone, in fact, who is in the chat and also watching. Great to see you all. Anyway, before I come back to your comments in the chat, I just want to do a quick roundup of the teams and how they should all be doing in qualifying. So McLaren, again, a bit quicker this weekend than we were expecting, possibly because of this upgrade they brought this weekend. And McLaren, of course, having the fastest car, they must get pole position. If they can get the front row, that would be absolutely brilliant. That would really help protect themselves against Max Verstappen, possibly taking the lead on Sunday or even winning the Austrian Grand Prix. But as long as they get at least pole position, that is good enough for the race on Sunday. Both drivers, again, need to perform and need to nail their laps, something that hasn't always been the case with these two drivers. But if they do, Oscar and Lando, nail their laps, then really it should be a front row lockout for McLaren. Verstappen won't be too far behind and will be there to capitalise on any mistakes or lack of performance in the end. But as long as, again, the two drivers perform, the car is there, and McLaren clear favourites for pole position here at the Red Bull Ring. Red Bull looking quick, but just not as quick as McLaren. They're just lacking that extra, I would say, probably quarter of a second or so to really be pole position, strong pole position material. Max Verstappen will be right in there. He will be at least in the top three. And again, if the McLaren drivers mess up, then he will be in there to capitalise, whether it's getting the front row or even getting himself onto pole position, something he's done so many times here in Austria. So yeah, keep an eye out for Verstappen in Q3. He absolutely could spoil McLaren's day. And also keep an eye out for Yuki Tsunoda, who has looked good this weekend and hopefully can get a strong qualifying position in the top 10. Ferrari, sadly, their upgrade, at least so far, has not appeared to work. Ferrari are nowhere near the pace to fight for pole position. They could, though, end up on the second row of the grid. If Leclerc does qualify fourth, then really you'd have to say that is a job well done from Leclerc, because that is the best really he can get in this qualifying session today. It at least gives Ferrari a decent chance of a podium tomorrow, which at least would be something. So yeah, Leclerc, if he can get on the second row, that would be great. For Lewis Hamilton, the issue with Hamilton obviously being, 2/10, 3/10 off the pace of Leclerc, is this weekend that really could hurt him quite a bit, because behind McLaren and the two McLarens and Max Verstappen, the field, the rest of the top 10 is very close. So Hamilton has got to make sure that he is on it in qualifying, because if he isn't, he'll end up at best in the back end of the top 10, may even be knocked out in Q2. Remember, this is not one of Lewis's best tracks. He has regularly been out-qualified by teammates here in the last 10 years or so, whether it's Rosberg, Bottas, Russell. So, yeah, this is not a strong circuit for Hamilton, so might be at risk today of a surprise elimination. But with Leclerc, the main man for Ferrari, again, a second row is possible. If they can get it, then maybe it'll put them in a good position for Sunday. For Mercedes, sadly, nowhere near the pace they had in Montreal, but like Ferrari, they can definitely get onto the second row of the grid, which would at least give them a good chance of a podium on Sunday. And pretty much like Ferrari, the second driver, Antonelli this time, not Hamilton, needs to be careful that he's not too far off the pace of his teammate, because if he is, he could also suffer an elimination in Q2 or end up in 9th or 10th place, which would be not great, obviously, for him. So, got to be careful, Antonelli, and got to make sure he's on it in this session if he wants to make sure that he is in a decent position for tomorrow's Austrian Grand Prix. But George Russell, I'm sure, will be in the top 5 on the grid. Whether he gets on the second row, we'll have to see. But Mercedes, yeah, sadly, nowhere near quick enough to be fighting for pole. Aston Martin are definitely the quickest midfield team, to the point where you could even say they're a front-running team in terms of mixing it with Ferrari and Mercedes on pace. And they are definitely the team to look out for in this qualifying session. Both drivers should be in the top 10. Lance Stroll has been pretty quick this weekend for a change. Fernando Alonso, yes, this is not one of his best tracks, but the car's good, so he should be pretty good as well. So watch out for Aston Martin. They could really cause a big surprise today. Alpine look pretty poor. I don't think they're really going to be anywhere near the top 10. They've got one of the slowest cars, unfortunately, this weekend. Haas look okay. I think they could maybe make Q2 with both cars, but I'd be surprised if they got near the top 10. I just don't think their car is quite that quick. Racing Bulls, I think, definitely could make the top 10, but they will need to rely on maybe a couple surprise eliminations, say Tsunoda in the Red Bull, or maybe even a Hamilton in a Ferrari or an Antonelli in a Mercedes getting eliminated to get in the top 10. The car through the corners is good, just lacking some straight line speed. Williams having, well, their worst weekend of the season so far. They look very slow, and I don't think they'll be anywhere near the top 10. And at the minute, look like they might be the slowest team going into qualifying. And keep an eye out for Sauber, because Bortoleto has been pretty quick this weekend, and Sauber, as of recent, are in pretty good form. So keep an eye out for Sauber. If there's going to be a massive surprise, I think Sauber really could be one of those. But here is my final prediction for qualifying. Oscar Piastri, I think, will take pole position. Max Verstappen, I think, will just about sneak onto the front row. Lando Norris in third. Leclerc fourth. Russell fifth. And then I think it'll be Alonso sixth. Tsunoda 7th, Antonelli 8th, Hamilton 9th, and Lance Stroll in P10. Let me know in the poll running in the chat or in the chat itself whether you agree or disagree with that prediction. As we have got just over 20 minutes to go until qualifying is underway. And again, make sure to subscribe for more content like this. If you are new to the channel, as we do qualifying and race watch-alongs pretty much for every Grand Prix. And make sure to smash that like button as well. It does help with the algorithm in terms of the channel's growth. And it shows me that you guys actually enjoy the content. So make sure to smash that like button. There you go. 21 minutes remain. Hello, by the way, to Rooks. Good to see you. Hopefully you've had a good couple weeks. But, yeah. Let's see. Well, let me just find some other comments here if I can. Astra saying, Kimi has shown a lot of potential. Jury's still out and very much promising with much more experience to be gained by him. Recall Max's crash Verstappen phase. Yeah, and not just that, other drivers have had that phase. Obviously, Sebastian Vettel had it, where he was called the Crash Kid. So, yeah, let's give Antonelli time. Again, I think he's done mostly well so far. There were a couple race weekends recently where I thought he was not doing good enough. Imola, Monaco that time. I didn't think he was doing a good enough job, but yeah, if you look at all the races so far, we've had 10 races so far. I think mostly he has done a a good job. So yeah, I think I personally I will be making a video on Antonelli. Not until though the winter break, because I want to give him the whole season to see legit how he does over the whole season, and then give my view on how good he is, how good could he be, etc. But it's too early, I think, to be saying so far just how good he could be, because we've had only just under half of a Formula One season. He's definitely gonna be a very good driver, is Antonelli, but whether he's gonna be a truly elite driver, Verstappen level, we'll have to see. Again, let's give it the rest of the season to see if he steps up a gear. Could Antonelli win his first race this year? I did predict in my season preview that I thought he would, but if you were to ask me now, I'd say no, I don't think he will, because I think Mercedes are going to get such few opportunities to win, and obviously 90% of the time George Russell is going to be the main man fighting for that for Mercedes. So yeah, I again, I'd say probably not. I really hope he can, though, because it would be great to see a new winner, and the birth of possibly a fantastic, amazing career. But yeah, we'll see what opportunities present themselves. Nicholas asking, when do you think Ferrari will become good again? Because I'm pretty sure Ferrari fans have had enough being disappointed every year. That's the $1,000,000 question: is when will Ferrari be good again? I mean, we have to remember that, even though they've had a title drought for, it's going to be now 18 years, because they're not going to win the championship this year. So it goes on to next year. There has been a few seasons since they last won a championship where Ferrari were good, but they ultimately, failed for whatever reason. 2017, 2018, 2022, 2010. Alonso challenged for the championship in 2012, but I wouldn't say Ferrari were good. I think Alonso made them look good most of the time, to be honest. But yeah, there has been a few times where Ferrari have genuinely been good, but for whatever reason, it just hasn't, whether it's driver mistakes or strategy errors or reliability, it just hasn't come together. But there hasn't been enough times where Ferrari have been at that level. Yeah, we've had 18 years pretty much, and there's only been 3 or 4 years since then where Ferrari have been properly good to compete. So yeah, that is obviously nowhere near good enough. And McLaren coming back from being in the doldrums like they were to now, they won the Constructors' Championship last year. They're going to win the Constructors' Championship this year, and maybe the Drivers' Championship as well. That should really not only embarrass Ferrari, but it should motivate them as well. Because, again, look where McLaren have been since, let's say since the start of the V6 hybrid era, which was 11 years ago. McLaren hit not literally rock bottom. They never, got to the point where they were finishing last in the championship, like, say, Williams. But for a team like McLaren, it felt like rock bottom and progressively rose back. And now look at them. So, yeah. And, McLaren, their title drought before last year was almost the same as, or it was the same as Ferrari. Their last Drivers' Championship is still 2008, but their last Constructors' title was the year I was born, 1998, before obviously last year. So, yeah. Again, if that does not push Ferrari to be better in the future, given what McLaren have managed to accomplish in these last couple years, then I don't know what could possibly motivate them to eventually get back to that level where Ferrari should be, winning championships. But yeah, in terms of when will they be properly, good enough again where they're properly competing for the championship, with Ferrari, you can't ever know until you get to a certain season and they just happen to have the car that particular year. A lot of us thought in 2017, when after the preseason testing they had and the way they started that season, we all thought this could be their year, but it ultimately turned out not to be. So, yeah. And yeah, Rook's saying brand new state-of-the-art factory has certainly done its job for McLaren. Absolutely. There has been talk that Ferrari might set up a base in the UK. I'll be honest, I don't really see the point, because I don't see that as why they've not won a championship. Would it help entice maybe certain people to join their team? Yeah, but I don't think that's the reason why Ferrari have not won a championship in the last 18 years. Or 17 years, sorry. It's been for other reasons. I mean, if you look at last year, they would have won the Constructors' Championship had it not been for this time last year where they failed to develop the car properly. If they had kept developing the car in line with everybody else, I think Ferrari would have won the Constructors' title. But they didn't. And they wasted, what was it, 4 or 5 races where they could have easily been finishing on the podium, maybe grabbing a win here or there. And again, ultimately, that probably would have led to winning the Constructors' Championship. But in the end, they fell short. Let me see if I can find some other comments here before we get underway, as we are only 10 minutes away from the beginning of qualifying. And what I'm trying to look at quickly, if there's any delay, because there was another incident at the end of the F2 race, but no, there is no delay, thankfully. But I've seen, what was it, Sky F1 have just done a quick piece on George Russell and also discussed the rumour that's been going around that George Russell was the one who put out there about Mercedes talking to Max Verstappen. And Toto Wolff even came out yesterday and said that Verstappen and Russell as a driver partnership would be fine because they managed to cope through the Hamilton and Rosberg era. Which I guess, if you look at it that way, yeah. But do they need any more grey hairs than they've already got? Having those two as their driver lineup. Again, I will be doing a driver lineup prediction video, but I still am very hesitant to say that Max Verstappen is gonna be at Mercedes next year because I still don't quite see it happening. In terms of, not that it won't happen ever. I can see Max going to Mercedes at some point. I just don't see it happening next year. And I do think they will want to keep hold of Antonelli at least another year, because what if Antonelli progresses the way Piastri has? And remember, Antonelli is, very young. So you don't want to jump the gun too early when you could have the next Max Verstappen in your car. And obviously, that'd be better to keep Antonelli, who might be the next Verstappen, rather than go and sign Max Verstappen, who is not old, obviously. Max is, 27, I think? Or he will be 27 later this year. Will he be 27 later this year or 28? I think he'll be. And next year, I think he'll be 29. So obviously, Max is not old. He's, in the peak of his career. But with Antonelli, you might have the next elite driver, and it might be better just to keep hold of him. So, yeah. Ultimately, we'll see what happens, but I would not be surprised if the Mercedes lineup next year was the same as it is now. Put it that way. KH saying, I'm thinking Antonelli will get into his prime age 25 to 27. Possibly. I mean, if you go and look at Lewis Hamilton, for example, when Lewis was 18, Lewis was nowhere near Formula One. Lewis Hamilton was 18 in 2003, I think he was, or 2002, something, around that area. And obviously that was a few years before he even got to F1. And Lewis didn't enter his prime until, I'd say, 2014 was probably the beginning of his prime. And in 2014, he was what? 28, 29 year old. So with Antonelli, and it, we could very well see the same with Leclerc and Russell and Piastri and Norris to a degree, where these drivers, they're very quick and very good at the moment, but they're still nowhere near their absolute prime. Because if you go and look at Lewis Hamilton and other elite drivers we've had in the past, Michael Schumacher, his peak was when he was in his probably early 30s. They're still quite a bit away from that age where, as a Formula One driver, you are at your peak. So there is still a long way to go before we see the absolute best of Antonelli, and even probably Russell, Piastri, maybe Norris. You'd hope so. Leclerc, and all these other drivers. I mean, Ayrton Senna was the same. Senna, I'd say his absolute peak was his late 20s, early 30s. Obviously, when he passed away, he was, 34? So, yeah, that tends to be your late 20s and early 30s. That tends to be when you hit your peak. So, for someone like Antonelli, he has a long, long way to go before we get to that point. And that's the scary thing with Max Verstappen, is that he could still get better. Anyway, we have got 4 minutes to go, and the F1 intro is now playing. So I think that's about time, guys, to get into this session. Before we do, though, let's have a look at the championship standings. Of course, very important to do so. Oscar Piastri coming into this Grand Prix, 22 points clear of teammate Lando Norris, who, of course, collided with him at the last Grand Prix. Max Verstappen in third, 43 points behind. Max absolutely has to make sure, really, he's on the front row of the grid at least today for his championship. George Russell then in fourth, and then Charles Leclerc fifth, Hamilton sixth, Antonelli 7th, Albon 8th, Esteban Ocon back up to 9th after the last Grand Prix, and Isaac Hadjar in 10th. And on the constructors' side, McLaren didn't have a great last race, but they are still way clear of the rest of the field. Mercedes back up to 2nd after winning and finishing 3rd in Canada. And then you got Ferrari 3rd, Red Bull 4th, Williams 5th, Haas are back up to 6th, level on points with Racing Bulls. Aston Martin back up to 8th. And 2 points clear of Sauber, and only 8 points separating those 4 teams, with Alpine last of all. Sorry about clearing my throat there. Anyway, let's go on to some final key stats for the front-running teams that you guys need to know of going into this session. For McLaren, their last pole position here in Austria was 25 years ago with Mika Häkkinen. A quarter of a century since their last pole at this track. That is quite incredible. And that is their only pole since the year 2000. So obviously their only pole in the 21st century at this circuit. Last year they were 2nd and 7th on the grid. Surely it will be a lot better today. The Red Bull, they took pole at last year's Austrian Grand Prix by quite a margin with Max Verstappen, and they have taken pole quite a few times in the last 10 years, 5 times with Max Verstappen since 2015. And last year, it was 1st and 8th for Red Bull in qualifying. Ferrari's last pole in Austria was 6 years ago with Charles Leclerc. They were so close to victory that weekend, but ultimately failed. And that is their only pole in Austria since 2015. And actually, you have to go back for their next pole in Austria before 2019. You have to go back to 2003 with Michael Schumacher. Last year, 4th and 6th it was on the grid. If they could get that, that'd be a decent result for Ferrari, given their pace so far this weekend. As for Mercedes, their last pole in Austria was 5 years ago with Lewis Hamilton in the wet, and Mercedes have taken the most poles here in the last 10 years, 6 pole positions since 2015. Last year, 3rd and 5th on the grid. Can they get as good of a result as that today? But here we go, guys. And Q1 will be underway in just a moment. Again, apologies about the throat there. But, yeah. Because my window's shut and it is very humid. The air, not great for me to breathe in. And, yeah. Making it a bit harder for my throat. But hopefully it'll be better after I just cleared my throat there, and I'll have a drink in a moment. But, yeah, Q1... Obviously, we'll be eliminating the bottom 5 drivers, whoever the bottom 5 are at the end of the 18 minutes. And we'll see who that will be. Looking at the performance this weekend, I think one of the Alpines, one of the Williamses, one of the Haases, I think, are very likely to be eliminated in this session. But honestly, it's very hard to say who will be eliminated, not only in Q1, but later for Q2. As we're looking there at the crowd at the very hot Red Bull Ring, and obviously the Max Verstappen fans quite dominantly out in force, as they usually are here at the Red Bull Ring. And I believe qualifying has begun, but they just haven't shown the actual timer as of yet. So once they get the timer on screen, guys, I will sync it up, obviously. All right, Rook's saying Q1 delayed for by 5 minutes. That'll be because of what happened in the F2 race. By the way, I can see we've got nearly 300 watching. Make sure to smash the like button. Let's try and get up to 50 plus likes if we can in the next few minutes. That'd be great if we could do that. We're on 34 likes as it stands. So yeah, we've just got a 3-minute delay, and then Q1 will be underway. So yeah, just wait for this delay to end, and thankfully only a 5-minute one. And then we will get properly going. As well, for people that have just joined, make sure to vote in the poll at the top of the chat. Let me know, who do you think will take pole position? That poll will keep running until the beginning of Q3, which will be in 45 minutes from now. So you've got another 45 minutes to decide, if you haven't already, who you think will take pole position for the Austrian Grand Prix. As all the drivers are in their cars waiting to get going. And obviously this delay has scuppered things slightly, but should be all good once we're underway in a couple minutes. And one more thing that I want to quickly touch on, which I always do in qualifying, is the lap times, what we should be expecting on that end. For pole position, the absolute best lap time I think we'll see today is a 1 minute 3.7. I would be amazed if we see a mid 1 minute 3. But a 1 minute 3.7, I think that's the absolute maximum that can be done today. So keep an eye on that for Q3. As for Q1, if you want to get through to the second part of qualifying, you're going to have to do a 1 minute 4 point lap time. If you do a 1 minute 05, then you're going to be fighting to get out of the drop zone, or to just about make it into Q2. But if you do a 1 minute 4 point something, then you should make it through to Q2. So keep an eye out for anyone who does a 1 minute 4 point whatever lap time, because whoever does a 1 minute 4 should make it through to Q2. As we are just a few seconds away from this session getting underway, and I will sync up at the 17-minute mark. And there you go. We are underway. So qualifying has begun officially. Has it officially begun? Nope. The red light is still on. Nope. not anymore. The green light comes on. And qualifying officially begins at the hot, mountainous Red Bull Ring in the Styrian Mountains. Who will take pole today? Pole position is quite important here. It has won a few times the race from pole. Verstappen in 2023 won from pole. Verstappen won twice from pole in 2021. Bottas and Hamilton won from pole here in 2020. So starting on pole at the Red Bull Ring absolutely is important. Obviously, you can win from outside of pole position here, but pole position has a pretty decent record. There you go. And let me just adjust the position there because it's a bit out of the way. And hold on a sec. Oh no. Let me just readjust the text here. And yeah, there you go. So 16.5 minutes remaining Q1. Let's see. By the way, cheers for the 50 likes. Let's try and keep going with those likes. Let's try and get up to 70 plus likes if we can in the next, 20 minutes or so. Let's see what these first lap times are like. Like I said, anyone who does a 1:04 lap time should be good to make it through to Q2. And also, the 3 tyre compounds this weekend are the C5, C4, and C3. As Lance Stroll, who's been pretty good this weekend, starts his first qualifying run, was 4th in practice 2 yesterday. By far the highest he's been in practice in, 3, 4, even 5 years. As he powers down to turn 4. And the first 2 sectors is where the Aston Martin has been at its best this weekend. Mainly, I think, because they've took a bit of wing off to make them efficient down the straights. But, yeah, Lance Stroll, it's not been the greatest lap visually. He's had a couple corrections he's had to deal with on the steering wheel, but he comes to the line and does a 1:06.0, which, yeah, is quite slow. He'll need a lot more pace than that to get through. As Carlos Sainz comes to the line, goes 3rd, so these are pretty slow lap times, I must say. But this is only the first run of qualifying. They will obviously go a lot quicker than this. And obviously the track evolution will kick in as well, as Oliver Behrman goes 5th. His teammate, Ocon, goes quickest. As, Behrman in P5, he was. It's now Pierre Gasly up there. Let me just quickly step away from the mic, so I just need to move something out of the way of my TV so I can see the screen better. There you go. It's just a box blocking the bottom half. Well, not the bottom half, but the very bottom of the screen. I couldn't quite see all of the sector things. As Colapinto goes 7th, not anymore, time deleted. Of course, that is one thing to look out for here, is lap time deletions for track limit violations. We had that infamous race, 2023, where not even half the field, almost everyone got time penalties for track limit violations. I think Esteban Ocon, who is currently quickest, ended up with, 30 seconds worth of penalties. And I think he still ended up finishing the race. As we are looking at a McLaren of, I think it's Lando Norris. As they're just shown there on the graphic on the TV broadcast, that Piastri has 4 pole positions this year, Lando Norris only 2. Lando has always been very quick here. This is arguably, you could say, his strongest circuit. I remember 4 years ago, he put it on the front row here in a McLaren that was nowhere near the pace of the Red Bull or Mercedes that year. So we know what he's capable of. Really, if he shows his absolute best form today, Lando should be taking pole position. As Hülkenberg goes quickest for Sauber on 1 minute 5.6. As Bortoleto goes third. Max Verstappen doing a purple first sector there. No surprise about that. As, yeah, we've only got 8 times on the board. As Verstappen struggling through turn 4 with some oversteer. Verstappen, this lap is, yeah, not that good. He'll definitely be going for more laps in this session, because this one will, if it does put him into the 1 minute 4s, it will only be just as, no, either the 1 minute 5.1. Yeah, that's a poor first run for Verstappen. As Lando Norris goes 4.5 tenths quicker, a 1 minute 4.6. So immediately Lando is safe from elimination, because that is a absolutely brilliant first lap. As that's a replay of Piastri going wide on the exit turn 4, and that's why Piastri's backed off on his lap. As we're looking at Lewis Hamilton, who's just come over the line and ended up third, right behind Verstappen. And Leclerc has gone right behind Hamilton. So third and fourth there. Tsunoda has gone fifth. As we're looking at Antonelli on board now, as Isaac Hadjar goes up to 4th place. That's a good start for Isaac. As Lawson goes 7th. There's Antonelli out the final corner to the line, goes P4. So let me just update that before George Russell comes to the line and only goes 7th. So it's currently Norris, Verstappen, Hamilton, Antonelli, Hadjar, Leclerc, and then Russell in P7, and then Tsunoda, Lawson, and Hülkenberg rounding out the top 10. And then it's Ocon 11th, Bortoleto 12th, Albon 13th, Sainz 14th. Not anymore, because Fernando Alonso has gone 14th. Only 14th, though. So Aston Martin have not started this session very quickly. Sainz 15th, and then in the drop zone, you've got Stroll, Gasly, Behrman, Colapinto, Piastri, but I think 2 or 3 of those drivers have not done a proper lap. As that's Alonso having oversteer on the exit turn 4. This is Albon going slightly too wide at the penultimate corner. Kicking up some gravel and a slight bit of carbon fibre coming off by the looks of it. As Behrman goes up to 14th. As someone else just improved, and it was Lance Stroll, who's only gone 12th. They're in the drop zone. You've got Alonso, Sainz, Gasly, Piastri, Colapinto. Piastri, though, is out there, I think, on a proper flying lap now with 8 minutes to go in Q1. Here we are looking at Pierre Gasly, who has had a couple decent points finishes here before, but nothing special. As, yeah, Piastri goes second, which is actually a pretty decent run there, considering he was on slightly extra used tyres. As Gasly out the final corner, goes sixth. 1 minute 5.2. That's a brilliant improvement by Pierre Gasly. So there you go. So your top 10, 2 McLarens, Norris and Piastri. Verstappen third, Hamilton fourth, Antonelli fifth, and then Gasly, Hadjar, Leclerc, Russell, and Tsunoda. In the drop zone, Bortoleto, Albon. Hold on, someone's improved. Oh yeah, Colapinto up to P12. Yeah, in the drop zone, Bortoleto, Albon, Behrman, Alonso, and Sainz. Carlos Sainz, I think, has had a lap time deleted. But yeah, Alonso in the drop zone is quite a surprise. But to be fair, Aston Martin have not been that quick so far, so you'd hope there's a lot more pace in that car, because yesterday they were doing, I think, a low 1 minute 5 in practice 2, and currently they're doing a 1 minute 5.7. So there is surely an extra, say, 6 to 7 tenths of a second at least in that Aston Martin. As here comes Hulkenberg, who stays 13th. That is not great, but still a few minutes to go. You can get back in and get a new set of tyres on. Here is Bortoleto, who goes 5th. That's a brilliant run from the young Brazilian. As there is Spinotto in the Sauber garage. He's head of the Audi F1 project. Of course, Audi coming to Formula 1 next year. Cannot wait. Let's now look at Williams. Both Williamses in the drop zone. You've got to say, it's expected. They've not been quick all weekend. As, Sainz losing the rear end a lot on the exit turn 4. This Williams car just not handling well. And Sainz going quite wide through the exit turn 7. I wouldn't be surprised if he has his lap time deleted. Albon is just in a purple middle sector. So Albon is finding a lot of pace. Carlos Sainz, scruffy lap, but he's going to come out of the drop zone. Only up to 14th. That definitely will not be good enough. He will get eliminated with that if that's the best he can do. Alex Albon goes 5th. That is a brilliant lap time. A 1 minute 5.1. May need to improve again, though, if he wants to absolutely make sure of a Q2 appearance. But that might just get him through. Like I said, a 1 minute 4 lap time, I think, guarantees you to get through. But I think the absolute slowest lap time you could do in this session and get through is probably a 1 minute 5.3. And currently, what is it? Yuki Tsunoda, I think. Oh no, George Russell in 11th is on a 1 minute 5.3. So I think the top 10 should be okay. I mean, they will have to improve again just to make sure, but they should, as long as they all improve, the top 10 runners, they all should be okay. But everyone from Russell down is in big trouble. And all will have to improve quite a bit to make sure they get through. As we're looking here at Esteban Ocon. Who is 17th, his teammate in 19th. There is, I think, a bit more pace in this Haas car, so let's see if they can show it on this final Q1 lap. By the way, hello to Dane. Hopefully you're doing well. And hello to Super Kev. Good to see you too. As here is Esteban Ocon starting his, what could be, probably is his final run in Q1. Ocon has had some good results here in the past. He finished 5th here in 2022 for Alpine. As he comes down to turn 4. He's not improved his first sector, but the first sector is largely irrelevant as long as you don't make a massive error in that first sector. What's he doing for the middle sector? He's up on Sainz, but only just. This is not good enough, I'm afraid. Even if he has an amazing final sector, I don't think Ocon is going to be making it through to Q2. He will, as Liam Lawson goes 3rd. What a lap by the Kiwi. Ocon goes 13th, but that lap will not get him through. He will get pushed down. I'm sure of it. But Liam Lawson up to 3rd, and that sees him definitely through to Q2. And both Racing Bulls have had a good start to this session as Leclerc improves up to 7th. Fernando Alonso nearly 3 tenths up on Colapinto. As Behrman comes out the drop zone and goes up to 8th. That is a brilliant lap by Behrman that very well could see him go through. Stroll up to 12th. Fernando Alonso now goes 8th. That's Alonso, I think, through to Q2. And Behrman, I think, has probably done enough as well. As George Russell is on an outlap and he's in 15th place. He's the driver most at risk. And starts that lap now. But in the drop zone now, it's Ocon, Tsunoda, Colapinto, Sainz and Hulkenberg. Ocon is out. No surprise. I said that his lap wasn't good enough. And it has already proven to be the case. As Russell starts the lap well. As Gasly up to 4th, guaranteeing himself into Q2. As Russell, bit of understeer through turn 4. But really, he should be making it through with this lap unless he makes a big mistake. Isaac Hadjar up to 5th as the checkered flag has now fallen. These are your final laps as Bortoletto up to 8th. He's definitely through. As Antonelli up to 10th. Here comes George Russell. Only goes 11th, but I think that will probably just about be enough. As here comes Carlos Sainz, who stays in 19th. Awful qualifying from him. As Colapinto up to 15th. Where is Yuki Tsunoda? He's pitted. Tsunoda is out in 18th. What a disaster. Yet again for Yuki Tsunoda. And Lance Stroll, after being so quick yesterday, still gets eliminated in Q1 like he usually does. What does that tell you about Lance Stroll? But yeah, Colapinto just about making it through on a 1:05.2. So I was almost exactly correct that the slowest time you need to do to get through was a 1:05.3. It was actually slightly quicker than that. But Q1 is over and done with. Let's go through the drivers that have made it through. Norris, Piastri, Lawson, Gasly, Hadjar, Verstappen, Hamilton, Bortoletto, Albon, Antonelli, Russell, Leclerc, Alonso, Behrman and Colapinto. And eliminated in Q1, Lance Stroll, Esteban Ocon, Yuki Tsunoda, Carlos Sainz and Nico Hulkenberg. And Q2 will be underway in about 2 or 3 minutes from now. And yeah, Lance Stroll. I'm not sure, though, with Stroll, whether you can say he did a poor job or not, because Alonso was only slightly ahead of him. So I think it might just be the case that Aston Martin just were not that quick in that session. Ocon, can't really blame him. The Haas car's just not that quick. Behrman, though, great job to get through. But I'm not sure Behrman's going to do or finish any higher, probably than 14th at best. Tsunoda, he said on the radio, no front grip. No excuse at the end of the day. He shouldn't be getting eliminated in Q1. Sainz, absolutely terrible. That was the worst performance of his season. Yeah, the Williams car's been, poor this weekend, but he was absolutely terrible in that session. And then Hulkenberg last, no idea what's wrong with him, but he's been absolutely trounced by his teammate in that session. And yeah, good job by Bortoleto out-qualifying Hulkenberg yet again. And a couple of people saying Tsunoda, or one person rather saying Tsunoda is genuinely a bum. I won't quite say that, but he definitely needs to step it up because he is not doing a good enough job as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, the car is difficult to drive. He, is not getting the same parts as, say, his teammate is. We get that. But he can do a lot better than that. Everybody knows that. Just trying to see if there's any news on X that I can bring you guys regarding qualifying, and no, there isn't. Astro asking, issue for Yuki with just his driving. I mean, yeah, if there's no front grip, that's obviously not great, but as a driver, it is your job to adjust to those things and still deliver. Quite a few of the drivers out there have issues with their car, but they still deliver. So, yeah. As Anthony Davidson is just currently looking at some of the onboards of the drivers who got eliminated. And he's showing that, yeah, the front end of some of the cars out there were definitely not working. I have to say, we saw quite a few drivers at turn 4 having trouble. I wonder if maybe something for the F2 races affected the grip into that corner, but yeah. One thing I will say, though, is even though the Williams car is definitely struggling this weekend, also, good job by Alex Albon to out-qualify his teammate yet again, which is continuing to raise his stock. But yeah, we are, a minute or so away from Q2 getting underway. And let me just get the graphics ready. There you go. And obviously now we'll be knocking out the next 5 in this session. It's the 2 Ferraris, look to be the first two cars. And they park up at the end of the pit lane. Interesting that Ferrari are doing this. Ferrari do tend to use scrubbed tyres for the first run in Q2. And looking at Leclerc's tyres, they do look like they've had a run already. So this is probably not going to be the greatest run from Ferrari. But one team that were very impressive in that session was Racing Bulls, third and fifth in Q1. That is a big surprise. Good to see as well. Liam Lawson is I wouldn't say keeping up this better level of performance, but he's definitely getting back to what we have seen from him when he's been at his best. As Q2's underway, it's been underway for about 40 seconds now, and I'll sync up the timer in about 15 seconds time. And I'll go through the lap time information in a moment in terms of what lap times to expect. And there you go. 14 minutes remain. But yeah, in this session, I think the best lap time we're going to see is probably a very low 1 minute 4. 1 minute 40, 1 minute 41, maybe at best a 1 minute 3.9. To get through though to Q3, I think you're going to need to do a 1 minute 4.5 at worst to get through, to absolutely make sure that you're through to Q3. If you're in the late 1 minute 4s, I think that's probably not going to be good enough. So, yeah. A 1 minute 4.5 or better should ensure your place in Q3. I think the absolute worst lap time we could see that gets through to Q3 is maybe a 1:4.7. Depends on the field spread. But yeah, I think a 1 minute 4.5 or better, like I said, I think gets the job done. And let's see what Ferrari are doing here on these scrubbed tyres. 1 minute 5.4 for Leclerc, which is not a good run there. And Hamilton does a 1 minute 5.6. Yeah, when you if you take away the amount that they would lose there with a worn set of tyres, that's not a good lap time there from Ferrari. I was hoping for a very low 1 minute 5 or a late 1 minute 4, to be honest. As that is Isaac Hadjar getting himself absolutely adjusted and in his car. Isaac still having a great season. In the top 10 of the championship. Who would have thought that after 10 races that he would be in the top 10 of the championship ahead of Fernando Alonso, Carlos Sainz in the Drivers' Championship. As a lot of the midfield runners now come out. Alex Albon has gone third with a 1 minute 6.0. Obviously, that'll be on scrubbed tyres as well, which is a pretty slow time. I'd be very surprised if Albon can get through to Q3 here. That would be one of the best laps he's done in quite a while if he was to do that. Because if you're looking at the midfield, Aston Martin, Racing Bulls, Sauber, all look quicker. And maybe even Alpine and Haas as well. So, yeah, we'll see what Albon can do. As that in the pits is Mark Mateschitz, who presumably is the son of the deceased Dietrich, who obviously owned and ran the team, or ran the company. And Mark is now the co-owner of Red Bull, I think, along with the is it the Thai business people? as Isaac Hadjar, we now look at, starts his first Q2 run. Can Racing Bulls keep up their impressive performance? Racing Bulls did a 1 minute, was it 1 minute 5.0, I think it was, in Q1. So if they were to do that again here, they would easily go quickest. But I think pretty much every team use scrubbed tyres for their first run in Q2 just to save on the tyres. So this will probably, Hadjar will probably be right in the mix with the Ferraris here. And he's actually a 10th up on Leclerc after the first two sectors. As Hadjar as actually being outpaced by Lawson, who's going nearly 0.2 of a second quicker than his young French teammate. As Hadjar goes second. Like I said, right in the mix with the Ferraris, which is very impressive for Racing Bulls. And Lawson goes quickest by 0.2 of a second. So good start there for Racing Bulls. As Bortoletto goes 6th. Not anymore, because Oliver Behrman has gone just ahead of him. As we're looking at Max Verstappen here, as Pierre Gasly goes up to P5. Verstappen, slightly slower than Lawson on this lap so far. You would imagine he'll be quicker in this final sector, though, and will go quickest by maybe a couple tenths, let's see. And Verstappen to the line. Yeah, 10.5 quicker. And Verstappen to the top of the timesheets on a 1 minute 5.1. Again, all of these teams, I'm pretty sure, are on scrubbed tyres. So we will see much better lap times in at the end of this session, as Antonelli goes 6th. George Russell goes 3rd. As here comes Oscar Piastri, who goes quickest by half a second. What a lap. A 1 minute 4.5. Remember, that's not the quickest time of the weekend so far. Lando Norris did it earlier in practice 3, a 1 minute 4.3. Lando goes quickest now and almost replicates that 1 minute 4.3 and does a 1 minute 4.410 as Leclerc comes to the line on fresh tyres and goes 3rd, but still half a second pretty much away from the two McLarens, who could very well also be on scrub tyres, and that is alarming if you're Ferrari, if you're half a second off on new tyres compared to possible scrubbed tyres on McLaren. So yeah, Ferrari now 3rd and 4th. So we're in the drop zone. It is now Albon, Behrman, Alonso, Bortoletto, and Colapinto. And in the top 10 right now, Norris, Piastri, Leclerc, Hamilton, Verstappen, Lawson, Russell, Hadjar, Antonelli, Gasly. Racing Bulls looking brilliant here at the moment. And by the way, for people asking in the chat, yeah, Ferrari did as, red flag. Don't tell me that's for, that's probably for stones on the bloody track. Yeah, it is. Honestly, what a pointless delay. It's not even stones, it's like grass that's been kicked up. So now we've got a red flag with 5 minutes and 42 seconds to go in Q2. Wonderful. As if we needed any more delays. I hate when we have delays in qualifying, especially for stuff like this. because it just makes it less enjoyable. But yeah, for Ferrari, that lap time there was, yeah, that was alarming. That really was, because half a second away from McLaren. If McLaren are on the new tyres as well, that's still bad. But if McLaren are on used tyres for that run, Ferrari could be, what, 7, 8 tenths at best, even maybe a second off the pace. So, yeah. Surely there is more pace in that Ferrari car. Because, and the reason I say that is because in practice 3, I'm pretty sure Ferrari did a 1 minute 4.6 or 1 minute 4.7. Which, if they did that just then, they would have been only, say, 3 tenths off the pace rather than 4.5. So there is more pace in that Ferrari, but the point I'm trying to make is, even if they did that lap time they did earlier in practice 3, they would still be quite far off. So, yeah, Ferrari are absolutely nowhere near McLaren. Nowhere near. But yeah, now we have to wait for them to clear this grass away. And yeah, Astro saying ridiculous reason to have a red flag. Exactly. What I would do. Oh, right. So it's been red flag due to a fire. My guess is that the grass, because it's so hot, the grass has caught fire out of the final corner. Which, if you guys were watching the Japanese Grand Prix weekend, you may remember that happened quite a few times in practice. And I think even in qualifying, the grass caught fire because it was dry and hot. And it is very dry and hot in at the Red Bull Ring. So, yeah, that's what's happened there. And if that is the reason, which it appears it is, then yeah, obviously you have to red flag it. There is Q2. It says will resume in 4 minutes time. So thankfully we won't have to wait too long. And it will be 5 minutes and 42 seconds remaining. What do you call it? And yeah, the drivers in the drop zone: Albon, Behrman, Alonso, Bortoleto, Colapinto. Surely Fernando Alonso can do a lot better than 13th. And surely Aston Martin have got a lot more pace than that. I think they do. And I think we'll see a lot more of that in this final 5 minutes or so. I'd be impressed as well if Racing Bulls can hang on. But to be honest, looking at the field and the lap times, I think Racing Bulls probably will make it through to Q3. I think they've got the pace. As long as they nail their laps at the end of this Q2 session, I think they'll be fine. So I think both Racing Bulls, you could say, yeah, will make it through. But will there be any surprise eliminations? What happened with Hulkenberg? No idea. But yeah, he clearly didn't have a good day and ended up last. Which is, yeah, a surprise because, I mean, at this Grand Prix last year, he finished, was it 5th? And he's finished well here before. I remember he finished, I think 6th here in 2015 after he raced at Le Mans. And yeah, he's had other, I'm pretty sure, good results here. As all the crowd waving and highly anticipating the rest of this session. But yeah, keep an eye on Racing Bulls because they look like they've got a lot of pace. As at the minute, McLaren look like they're way too far clear of the rest of the field. I'm sure, though, Max Verstappen will get a lot closer. But yeah, I think Verstappen is probably the only one who can get remotely anywhere near the McLarens. As we've got, I think, less than a minute now until we're back underway. As we look at Oscar Piastri in his McLaren pits. Piastri has been all weekend since Lando stepped in the car after Alex Dunn, the exciting Irish McLaren reserve driver who's in F2, stepped in the car in practice one. Who, by the way, Alex Dunn did a brilliant job. He was only a 10th slower than Piastri and ended up 4th in practice one. So I think Alex has really shone there and put himself maybe in a position to get himself on the grid maybe next year or the year after. He's very talented, Alex, but he is very erratic, to say the least. He caused a massive pile up in Monaco by being an absolute stupid idiot, quite frankly. As yeah, Q2's back in the way. I unfortunately, because I was daydreaming, forgot to sync up the timer at the 5-minute mark. So I will sync up at the 4-minute mark in about 45 seconds time. But what we're going to see in this final 4.5 minutes is the final run, basically, in Q2. All the front-running teams remaining should make it through. And then it's down to whether Lawson, Hadjar, and Gasly, the midfield runners who are in the top 10 at the moment, whether they can join the party. As cars are about to be released. Yep, Max Verstappen there. And there you go, 4 minutes left. One thing I am interested to see is whether McLaren will show any more pace in this session. They don't need to. McLaren really, I think, should just stay in the pits and stay with set tyres. But looks like they are coming out with everybody else. But if they are on a fresh set of tyres, I am interested to see whether what do you call it? Whether they will get into the low 1-minute fours, like I said, is doable. Because if Norris or Piastri were to do a 1-minute 4-0 or a 1-4-1, that would really rubber stamp their authority going into Q3 and send a message to the rest. As we are looking at Oliver Behrman, currently in 12th. That would be a brilliant qualifying result if he ended up there, given the lack of pace from the Haas car. And we'll see what Behrman can do. Behrman, remember, has what do you call it? He's not scored points for a few races. I think the last time he scored points might have been the sprint race in Miami. If it wasn't then I think it was the Japanese Grand Prix at Suzuka. But here is Behrman. Can he somehow drag this car into Q3? He started well, nearly a tenth up on Gasly after the first sector. Again, if you can do a 1 minute 4.7, I reckon, at worst or better, then I think you will definitely be through to Q3. We're going to have a lot of lap time improvement in this final 90 seconds. As Behrman, at the minute, is doing enough to get inside the top 10 on lap time, but I don't think the lap time ultimately is going to be enough when it all matters. As Hadjar goes up to 6th, and Behrman goes up to 8th. But Bortoleto goes 3rd for Sauber. That is a cracking lap time. And I think, well, whether that's going to be enough, we'll see. Because, again, there's going to be a lot of lap time improvement. If Bortoleto can improve that much, then a lot of the others can as well. As Verstappen goes up to 3rd. We've now got a Mercedes in the drop zone. Antonelli, though, is on a lap. So is George Russell, who is only just ahead of him. As Antonelli up to turn 6. As Lawson goes back ahead of his teammate. So 7th and 8th for Racing Bulls. Will that be enough? It's going to be very close. As Antonelli appears to be doing enough at the moment, but whether it's going to be enough overall, we'll have to see. Russell is doing some very good sectors to get him through. As Antonelli to the line goes 8th. As Alonso goes 9th. And George Russell goes 5th. That knocks Isaac Hadjar out. What a shame. So, Bortoleto for Sauber has made it through. What a job by the Brazilian, who continues to show his brilliance. As Leclerc up to 3rd. So Hadjar and Behrman, 11th and 12th, are out, but we've still got the 2 Alpines out there. Pierre Gasly goes 6th, knocks out Fernando Alonso. What a lap by Gasly that is. Colapinto, only 13th. What can Albon do? Only 12th. And he is out, but I think, to be honest, Albon won't be that bothered with that. I think 12th he'll be decently satisfied with, given the lack of pace Williams have had this weekend. But there you go. So in the end, it was a 1 minute 5.0 of Antonelli. That was the worst lap time that made it through. So quite a bit slower in that session than I expected the teams to be, I must say. Anyway, Q2 over and done with. Let's go through the drivers who've made it through to the shootout. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, Max Verstappen, Gabriel Bortoleto. What a lap and what a performance by Bortoleto. Easily one of the drivers of the day. Pierre Gasly as well. What a lap by him as well to get into the top 10. And then George Russell, Lewis Hamilton, Liam Lawson. Brilliant job by him. Kimi Antonelli, and then knocked out in Q2, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, Isaac Hadjar, Franco Colapinto, and Oliver Behrman. As Q3 will be underway probably in about 3 or 4 minutes' time. Alonso absolutely should be disappointed, and Aston Martin should be, after the great pace they've shown so far this weekend, and it's all disappeared. And yeah, Alonso, the lap time he did in that session was a 1 minute 5.1, which is I think slightly slower than what they did in practice 2 yesterday. So Aston Martin definitely not tapping into the potential. Maybe they can tomorrow. Albon 12th, like I said, I think he'll be satisfied with that given the lack of pace Williams have had. Hadjar 13th, he'll be disappointed with that given how he's dominated Lawson. I think Hadjar really would have been hoping to make the top 10. Colapinto 14th. Gasly has really outshone him there, but that's not the worst result from Colapinto. And then Behrman 15th. Yeah, Haas just not that quick. But yeah, Bortoleto and Gasly, what incredible laps by those two. And we'll see what they can do in Q3. Bortoleto might be able to get himself on the 4th row of the grid. But remember, guys, the poll is still running in the chat. Make sure to vote in that poll if you haven't already, because I will be finishing up the results in that poll in the next couple minutes. So if you haven't cast your vote, do it now. As well, yet again, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe for more content like this, as we do qualifying and race watch-alongs pretty much for every Grand Prix, and as well, what do you call it? Yeah, smash a like button. Let's try and get up to, say, 80, 85 plus likes if we can by the end of qualifying, which should be in about 15 minutes time. And that is, of course, Bortoleto, as we've just seen the team radio celebration from Bortoleto on the replay there. Yeah, that is the first time Bortoleto has made Q3, and he has been impressive this season. You cannot deny that. The only issue is the races. He hasn't still figured out a way to get or to perform consistently on race day. In qualifying, he is very good. But once he figures out how to be consistent and how to manage tyres and all of that on race day, I think Bortoleto is going to be a very, very good driver. So keep your eyes on Gabriel Bortoleto in these next couple years or so. As now we patiently wait for the beginning of Q3, which of course will be a 12-minute long session. I'll sync up the timer at the 11-minute mark. And by the looks of it, the fight for pole is between the two McLarens. I'm still going to keep Verstappen in there because it's Max Verstappen, but if Max is not on pole, then yeah, it's all down to those two McLarens. But will Lando Norris deliver what he should deliver in this session coming up? He has been quicker than Oscar all weekend. He has been dominant. He's looked great. And he has to deliver pole position. He cannot throw it away and let Oscar take pole. That cannot happen. And if he has any designs on winning the championship, he must win this Grand Prix. And pole position would be a brilliant way to at least begin securing a possible race win. As we are just waiting for the session to get underway, we're looking at the Mercedes of Russell. Now the McLaren of Lando Norris. Piastri ahead on the head-to-head in qualifying this season. 6-4 for Piastri. And that's why Piastri really is leading the championship, because Oscar has made such improvements in qualifying. And who will be the first team to blink? As we're still patiently waiting. I don't know if the session has actually started yet. And there you go. Green flag waves. So the session... sorry. The session has begun. But nobody is hitting the track just yet. As we are looking at the two Ferrari drivers who are just getting their gloves on, getting some cool air into the cockpit. And there is Liam Lawson in the Racing Bulls garage. Brilliant. He has been this weekend. And there you go. 11 minutes remaining qualifying. As I said at the start of this session, I still think a 1-minute 3, a late 1-minute 3 lap time, say between a 1-minute 3.7 and obviously a 1.4.0, I still think at best that is possible. But if you can do a very low 1-minute 4 point lap time, then you are going to be in a very strong position for pole position. But still, nobody coming out on track. Well, looks like we're about to get someone, and it is the World Championship leader, Oscar Piastri. But we've almost, by the way, got 1,000 votes in that poll. So I'm going to wait till it goes over to 1,000, and then I will finish up the results in that poll. As Leclerc and Hamilton now join the track, what can Ferrari salvage? As unsafe release a bit there from the Mercedes of Russell. That'll probably be a fine. But yeah, they all now slowly filter out onto the circuit. As we got 999 votes on the poll. So just one more vote. And I'll finish up the result. We do have a clear winner for the poll. And there you go. So 1,000 votes exactly on the poll, asking, who do you think will take pole position in Austria? And 38% of the vote has gone to Max Verstappen, interestingly. If he can get pole here, that would be an absolutely incredible job, because McLaren look very quick. 29% of the vote to Lando Norris, 21% for Oscar Piastri, and 11% for Charles Leclerc. Let's see who will take pole for the Austrian Grand Prix. As we're on board with Lando Norris, who is just coming up to coming down to turn 4. What Lando has to do is get the first lap right, and that's really why in qualifying Lando has messed up so much this year, is because he's failed to get that first lap right, and it's then put so much pressure on him that he inevitably succumbs to. But here comes The championship leader, Oscar Piastri, begins his first attempt at taking his first ever pole at the Red Bull Ring. Remember, McLaren have not had pole here for a quarter of a century. And on that occasion, not only did they get pole, they locked out the front row and easily got a 1-2. As Piastri now on the run down to turn 4. Lando Norris has already done a purple first sector. As into turn 6 and 7. Looks good through there from Piastri. But we'll see what Lando Norris can do as Gasly sets the first lap time. And then Antonelli obviously goes quicker. As Piastri comes to the line, and it's a 1 minute 4.5, which is definitely not good enough. As Lando Norris, his teammate behind, going even quicker. And to the line, he goes 0.3 quicker. Lando Norris on provisional pole, 1 minute 4.2. That's a very good start from Lando. Here is Max Verstappen. What can he do? Leclerc, by the way, doing a brilliant lap compared to what he's done so far. Verstappen goes third, but 0.6 off pole. That is a massive amount. Here comes Leclerc, who goes second. Leclerc puts it on the front row. What a result that would be if he could hang on for that in the final lap, as Russell not having the greatest lap so far. This will probably put him ahead of Verstappen. Not sure if he put ahead of Hamilton, who has gone up to 4th. 2nd and 4th for Ferrari. What a result that would be. For Russell, only 5th. So Mercedes 5th and 7th. And yeah, Max Verstappen 6.5 off the pace of Lando Norris, who currently is on provisional pole by a quarter of a second nearly ahead of Leclerc. But yeah, Ferrari, what a turnaround that has been for them. 2nd and 4th at the moment. Again, if they can hang on to that, that would be an absolutely brilliant result. And at least put them right in the mix. But we've got 5 minutes left in practice 3, in Q3. And one more run to go, as Liam Lawson, interestingly, went out on track, but failed to do a lap time that time around. So we'll see what he can do. But I think the driver really to look out for here is Max Verstappen. Surely he can improve on that lap time, which is a 1 minute 4.9. He did do a much better lap time in practice 3 of I think a 1 minute 4.5. So we know Verstappen can go quicker than that. Verstappen, I think, has the potential to go at least 4th. So there is definitely more there in that Red Bull. And you'd imagine there's more there in the McLaren and Piastri. As the cars have been quickly refueled and are ready to go for this final run. And we'll see ultimately who takes pole. You'd imagine it will be McLaren, but can Leclerc somehow do what has seemed all weekend the impossible and take pole position. If he does, it will be one of the best pole position laps of his career. As the car's now filtering out of the pit lane very slowly, as the Sauber now trying to come out, but it's going to be quite tight for the Sauber to get out. As we're looking at the visor cam of Leclerc, who is just touring out of the pits. So is George Russell. Russell, I'm sure, as well, has more pace, but how much more we'll have to see. But definitely not pole position like it was last time in Canada. As we look at now Max Verstappen, who has always been right up front on the grid here. He has taken the last 5 pole positions at this circuit in the 2 races in 2021, and then 2022, 2023, and 2024. That's how dominant Verstappen has been. If he's not at least on the front row, it's going to be incredibly foreign territory for him on the grid tomorrow. But here he comes. Can he drag himself into position? This is critical now for his World Championship. Through turn 1 he goes. No idea how his turn 1 went because they never showed it. Up to the first sector. And he's nearly a 10th off after the first sector. Opens the DRS down to turn 4. The middle sector will start to show us whether this lap is any good. As Russell does a purple first sector. So Mercedes clearly very quick through there. It's just the middle part of the lap, really, where they're losing so much. As Verstappen, a 10.5 off Norris after the first 2 sectors. As we've got a yellow flag out there. Don't know who it's for. But now it's green. And Verstappen backed off because of it. So Verstappen... Is he going to start? Yeah, no, he's not going to start a new lap. So Max is done. What a disaster for Verstappen. And that really could decide whether his championship bid comes to an end this weekend or not. As George Russell improves but stays in 5th as Lando Norris has done 2 purple sectors. Leclerc doesn't improve, stays in 2nd. As Lando Norris comes round the final couple corners to dominantly take pole position, a 1 minute 3.9. What a lap and what a weekend he's had. As Lewis Hamilton stays 4th. That's a good qualifying from Hamilton there. I think less than a 10th away from his teammate. As Verstappen has been out-qualified by Lawson, who's got ahead of him. Liam Lawson has out-qualified Max Verstappen in Austria. Here comes Bortoleto. He goes 8th and out-qualifies Antonelli. What a lap by Bortoleto. And Piastri, I'm guaranteeing, is not on a lap. And I'm thinking, yeah, Piastri pits. So there you go. Qualifying over and done with, and Lando Norris takes a crucial pole position for himself in the championship fight. Charles Leclerc 2nd, half a second away in the end. Oscar Piastri 3rd. This is why we had a yellow flag. It's for Pierre Gasly going off and spinning, doing a full 2 spins on the pit straight. But yeah, Oscar Piastri in the end, only 3rd. Lewis Hamilton 4th. George Russell 5th. Liam Lawson 6th on the grid. Max Verstappen 7th. That is the worst qualifying he has had at this track since 2015 when he was in the Toro Rosso. And that could be a championship deciding qualifying session. Because there's no way Max wins the race tomorrow. Absolutely no way. And that is absolutely crucial. And then Bortoletto 8th, out-qualifying Antonelli 9th. Awful effort from Antonelli, ending up over half a second away from his teammate. Gasly 10th, Alonso 11th, Albon 12th, Hadjar 13th, Colapinto 14th, Behrman 15th, Stroll 16th, Ocon 17th, Tsunoda 18th, Sainz 19th, and Nico Hulkenberg 20th. That is your starting grid, and what a starting grid we have. For this Austrian Grand Prix. And remember, I will be live tomorrow at 12 p.m. UK time, 2 hours before the race starts, for a build-up to the race and then to watch along as well. But let me just do this driver of the day vote so you guys can vote on that. Who do you think is driver of the day for qualifying in Austria? And your options for driver of the day will be Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Liam Lawson, and Gabriel Bortoletto. So there you go. Driver of the day, I'm going to go Liam Lawson. I'm very tempted to go Lando Norris because he ended up half a second ahead of Leclerc and Piastri, but I think that yellow flag did scupper things for a couple people out there. So yeah, I'm going to go Liam Lawson, driver of the day. What a performance, and definitely getting back to the best of what we've seen, and really helping him stay on the grid. So yeah, absolutely fantastic. Also fantastic performance from Bortoletto, 8th. And credit where credit's due, Lando Norris was absolutely stunning today. Nobody was beating him. So yeah, brilliant job by Lando. And Lando should be winning tomorrow's race. And also, shout out, obviously, to the other driver in the driver of the day vote, Charles Leclerc, who did a brilliant job to put it on the front row. Once again, proving that if that Ferrari car was quick enough, he would easily be good enough to be right in there fighting for pole, winning races. Ferrari just need to give him a better car. So let's see what you guys are saying in the chat. Ignazio Lombardi says, come on, Ferrari, 2nd and 4th. Astra says, Bortoletto, driver of the day for me. Cater says, Kimi needs to step up. That was a poor performance, no doubt. Mercedes, though, were not great in that session. But yeah, Antonelli should have been at least a couple positions higher, given what happened there. Astra saying famous last words. Chazza, I think you're referencing me saying Max is no way of winning tomorrow. I will not be wrong on that. Max Verstappen is not winning tomorrow's race. Absolutely no way. We would have to have an absolutely mental race tomorrow for that to happen. Max is going to have to do a really great job, even just to get on the podium, because I had a look at the race pace from the long runs yesterday, and Red Bull's race pace was not good, at least compared to their rivals. So, yeah. If Max ends up on the podium, I think that'd be a pretty good result given his qualifying. But yeah, Lando Norris obviously will be very happy to see Verstappen down there and obviously be on pole. I think though, Oscar Piastri will be very, very pleased, even though he's third, because Max is in 7th. Oscar knows as long as he finishes the race and has no dramas, he's going to beat Verstappen tomorrow. And Verstappen, I still think, is Oscar's main rival for the championship. So if Oscar can somehow win tomorrow, that would be the icing on the cake for him. That would be absolutely perfect, especially if Max doesn't finish on the podium. But yeah, we will see what happens tomorrow. Even though Lando's on pole, no guarantee that he will win. And as we've seen with Lando, there is no guarantee with him as to what he will do or what result he will get. Cater says, as an Antonelli fan, I'm fearful that Mercedes could drop him for Verstappen. I understand. I mean, if it happens, it happens. You can't blame Mercedes because it's Max Verstappen. Everyone is inferior to Max Verstappen, so if they decide to do that, then fair enough. But for Antonelli, very important where he goes next. He's not going to go to Ferrari unless Lewis Hamilton decides to retire at the end of this season. Obviously not going to go to McLaren. You'd think Red Bull, probably in a straight swap, will take on Antonelli, because Red Bull will need some sort of replacement for Max Verstappen. And obviously they're not going to turn up next season, Red Bull, if they lose Verstappen and have Tsunoda and Lawson in their car. There's absolutely no chance of that. So, yeah. Right, let me find a couple more comments and then we're going to come to the end of this stream because I need to open my window and actually breathe some actual fresh air. Base Law says more like Verstappen. Penalties for anyone? No. I mean, Russell probably will. He was noted for an unsafe release. He'll probably get a small fine for that. Astro saying, not sure Yuki will even finish the season with Red Bull the way he's going. No, I think he will. I don't think Red Bull are going to bother replacing him. I think he'll stay exactly where he is. In terms of where he goes next season, though, it's an interesting one. But let me just finish up the poll running in the chat. And it's been a close one in terms of deciding driver of the day. But ultimately, just about there is a winner. As we'll wait for it to finally appear in chat. It's not quite appearing for me. Might have appeared for you, but not quite for me. And nope, still hasn't appeared. I'm just looking at X quickly to see if there's any what do you call it? If there's any news that I should bring you guys. And no, can't see anything. There you go. 48 votes on who do you think is driver of the day for qualifying in Austria, and a shared winner. 33% of the vote goes to Lando Norris and Charles Leclerc, 25% for Bortoletto, and 8% for Liam Lawson. Wow, I think that's the first time we've ever had a shared winner for driver of the day. But there you go. So yeah, that is it for qualifying. Thank you guys for coming along for this stream. Been great to have you. Make sure before you go, again, to subscribe as we do these watch-alongs for every Grand Prix. Make sure to smash the like button as well before you go. And as well, make sure to check out the video I did a few days ago on Ferrari and their issues in 2025. The video is called The Problems Plaguing Ferrari in 2025. There is a link in the description. Make sure to go and check it out. I will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. UK time, 2 hours before the race starts, for the race watch along, where we'll do obviously the usual build up and then the watch along. My co-commentator Niblo will be joining me tomorrow, so hopefully should be a good one. I'm not expecting a classic, but we definitely will get some racing and some stiff competition in certain parts of the field, especially Max Verstappen down in 7th. Can't wait to see what he's going to do tomorrow. But make sure to join us for that tomorrow. And then, of course, there'll be a podcast on Monday reviewing the Austrian Grand Prix weekend. So, that is the plan for the next couple of days. Thanks for today. Make sure to join us for tomorrow. And, guys, until tomorrow's Austrian Grand Prix in the Styrian Mountains at the Red Bull Ring, it has been me, Chazza HD. Goodbye.